We will now move on to the member meeting, and that's going to be kind of like the end, the last part of the board meeting. Generally, from the floor, is there any questions, literally about anything? We can educate. We can clear some things up. Anything? Show of hands. Sir.
Question for the board. I'm getting my steps during this night.
Thank you. K6YEK. Is there any objection from the board or from anyone if a West Coast NCS wishes to start or run a 75-meter late net that is not scheduled? Is there anyone that has an objection to that occurring?
Yeah, we would.
In other words, I used to run Thursday 75-meter late nets, and then I dropped out because of some other issues going on. If I wanted to come back in and run a Thursday 75-meter late net, is there any objection to me doing so?
It is policy of the club that if a net isn't started, anybody can start the net. So whether you got training or not, if you're there,
Hey,
go for it.
Hey, Dean.
Yes.
I think what he's getting at is the 75-meter lates have been canceled except for the weekends.
Correct.
So they're not on the schedule. So
Right.
I think he's getting to, if it's not on the schedule,
Doug,
is it okay? And I would say it's okay myself, but I'm not you.
Yeah.
75 late during the week is still on hold, and it'll probably start up again in the next month or so. Okay.
So what you're saying then is if I want to run a 75-meter late net on next Thursday,
Right.
it can't be done because it's been suspended.
Because I suspended it. Right. Right.
Okay.
And the reason for that is that by looking at the calendar, there's going to be nobody there. In other words, we basically have announced on the website that our 75-meter late net is Friday, Saturday local, and then we're going to restart it, and we're looking for NCS. Once we get going again, to answer your question, if there's nobody there on Thursday night, by all means, you check it out.
However, NCS canceled before. If the NCS is canceled as scheduled, that anyone can pick it up. Anyone.
Could we consider expanding the? Could we consider expanding the adding a Thursday and have Friday, Saturday, 75-meter late? If Bill's willing to run it and be there, I think when someone's there, more people will come. Even with the band conditions like they are, if the net's there, it might not start off strong, but if it meets, and it will build. I'd offer that we would consider it. Expanding.
Are you suggesting that you like to start with Thursday night 75 net on a regular basis?
I've been thinking about it.
You are so duly elected. Give me a call when you get home, and I'll be more. If you're willing to do it and you're committed to do it, by all means. But one of the big reasons that we closed these nets is that we have a severe shortage of 75-meter NCSs.
Yeah.
So, and we're looking for all the help we can get. And even after we move into the new schedule, sticking with Thursday night, welcome aboard.
Thank you, Bill.
Yeah, thank you. Bill, raise your right hand, say I did.
That's fine, that's
What's
fine.
up?
No, that's fine.
I'm going to be gone for 3+ months.
Just let me know ahead of time so that I can update the calendar.
Okay.
Okay, great, awesome. Any other questions? Brian?
I hate microphones. I'm a drummer. I don't usually touch these. But I wanted to ask, this is Brian, A1QW, by the way. The last time I was active on the nets goes back to about 2014 to 2016, and previous to that in the 90s. And the check-in process on the nets was always based upon the digit of the date Zulu. So, for instance, if it was the 11th, the first call area would go first. If it was at 9, the 9th area would go first, and so on. Between 2016 and coming back in 2023, we obviously changed to the format we have now. We start a little early and we just take pre-net check-ins, which I would assume that was to probably try and expedite that process. But I guess my question would be, what was that in fact the rationale behind it, and do we feel it has been successful? I would probably counter that just with my past experience on the nets. I feel like back in the day when we did it by the Zulu date, we would start, right on the top of the hour, and we would still get through the check-ins in about 15 minutes and kick off the net. And I feel like when we're doing the pre-net check-ins, there's constantly people on top of each other. Net control is trying to parse through it, and it almost seems like it might be a wash. So just something I've been curious about for a while, and thank you for the opportunity.
Would you hand the mic to Gary and let him respond?
I'm gonna step over here. So I don't get hurt.
So Brian, the reason we did it was to try to speed up the nets, because it was, so we wanted to try to get the net started as close to the top of the hour as possible. What was happening before we did this was it was usually the bottom of the hour before we got started, and it just took a lot of time. And so if you try to do it by caller in the pre-list, it's really difficult. And so we decided, why does it matter? We'll just start taking things in. And you do get a little bit of a pileup, especially I run a lot of nets. At the beginning of the net, everybody wants to get in. But after the first 5 or 6 minutes, that calms down a lot. And you don't get as many people on top of each other. And if you're listening really close, sometimes you get back up 2 or 3 at a time. So anyhow, that's why we did it. And me personally, I think it has helped a lot. If you look at the nets, most of them get started between 5 and 10 minutes after the hour. And previously, it was 25, 30 minutes after the hour before the nets started. And as a result, they were running really late.
Part B. Part B. So part B to this issue about delays and everything else, and this is more of a poll to the club, and I've been talking to a number of people about it, and I'd like to hear from you guys of what's your opinion about late check-ins. Should we stop the net? If we recognize the station, should we put our off on AIM? Should we put them on the check-in list and then wait until the appropriate time, or what we should do? Because I'm hearing it all over the place, and like I said, I would like to hear some comments, because if we need to change it, we can. But I'll tell you what, I've got a couple of real strong people that. Go ahead.
Well, W6PY, there will not be consistency on this process, period. So I'm going to preface it with that. I've run quite a few nets. I take check-ins on AIM. I take check-ins if someone just says, when I stop the net to take check-ins, if I take them off of AIM, I don't ask to hear their call sign. I put them on the list. I don't even make them blue if the net's already in progress. My thought process is either they're there or they're not. If I take the time to ask for their call sign, I'm taking time from the net. If they get a call and they respond, I'm like, he's there. Okay, if he gets a call and he doesn't respond, he gets marked blue. That's how I do it. But I don't spend my time trying to check in a station that says they want to check in. I'll check in anybody, anytime they say check in on AIM. I really get pushed out of shape when someone says, check in, check in, check in. I'm like, dude. I tend to ignore them. But I really do. It gets pretty irritating. But NCSs all have their own way of doing it. That's how I do it. I don't have a problem doing it that way. It's not a violation of any FCC rules. You're hearing their call sign when they get a call and when they're given a call sign. So that's my opinion.
Anybody else like to comment on that issue?
Did I hear right?
I'd ask the third option be considered and leave it to the NCS discretion. Sometimes the dynamics of the, I'd offer that the third consideration is leave it to the discretion of the net control. sometimes the dynamics of what's happening at the time of the net when they're checking in is really busy, or you have that happening close to the end of the round when there's a lot of things the net control is doing. So I'd offer he has some discretion, he or she has some discretion to, okay, I'll take him when I see him on AIM or when I hear him on the air, whichever is more expedient at the time. Thank you.
Did I?
Go ahead. I'm going to respond to Kurt.
This is N1ABY. I got to agree with Kirk. I mean, it seems to vary all over the place anyway. I mean, you have some people that will, some NCSs will, like every 20 stations, they'll take more check-ins or so forth. But like Kirk said, it's whatever's most expeditious. I think you should leave it up to the NCSs to manage it the way they see fit.
Okay, who did I diss back here? Okay, quick question.
What is the NCS guide say?
Is there a guide on the?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, there is.
Who's
What is-
asking
what
the
does it
question,
say?
please?
What's that?
Call sign, who's asking the question?
NABF, right?
Yes.
Okay. That'd be November 8 Bravo Foxtrot.
I get it.
Okay.
Let's go with that.
What does the NCS guide say?
All actions by the NCS or sanctions.
Let's talk about the middle.
Let me respond to Mac and Kurt, and then maybe this will answer your question. I've been hammered on this for the last couple of months, and so I'll give you my personal viewpoint. Is I want to stop with making everything a rule and supporting what Mac's saying is giving our NCSs the discretion to do things. And as far as I'm concerned, this is my opinion, this is my feeling, is that what Mac's doing is what I'm starting to do, is he's taking these things off of AIM and he's keeping it that's running, and they're running faster. And it addresses a little bit of what Brian was talking about things getting going. Because 3 or 4 years ago, our nets were dragging. Check-ins were going 20, 25 minutes on the early nets, and then you get to the point and you've got first call area, second call area, and you're ready to start the net, and then you got 5 new check-ins, so you start over again, and it just kept going like this. And so this gets us started. So as far as I'm concerned, taking check-ins off at AIM, popping them into the bottom of the list, and just keep the flow going. And I don't even think you need to pick them up when you stop for check-ins. I think that you've got them on the list. They're not blue, pink, orange, or whatever the color it is. And if somebody wants to call them, they call them. And the other thing that I'm a real proponent of is that a master puts his thing on the call sign that he immediately puts in, because I think that's just a privilege of the master. But anyway, does that answer your question, Brian?
Sort of. The only thing I was getting at is you want consistency, or just try for it. If there's a guideline in the NCS guide that says this is what we think you should do.
I'm willing to pump that over to the bylaw committee and put it on their list that we should put some guidelines in, or better guidelines into the guideline section rather than the policy section. Okay, because I don't think it degrades from what our integrity of what we do, unless somebody disagrees with me. But I still think that this group is a good group of people, and our club is a good group of people, and we set the bar high. So I answer your question, Ryan?
Yes.
Okay, was there anybody in front of Mac? Were you? Okay, Mac, let me get here.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, a couple of points. First, as a member of the group, not an NCS, I'd like to hear the call sign, and at least be able to see if I can hear that station, because it may save some time not asking for his call sign at the beginning, but then I'm going to waste time when it's my turn to see if I can even hear that station. And so I think it does save time if you ask for that call sign. And the second point is, when I recently went through the NCS Academy, that was part of the rules that were taught. We had to hear that call sign. There's a lot there, Kerry. W6PNY, Mr. Doug. There's a lot there because there's a lot in the NCS guide that is very specific, and no singular NCS completely follows the NCS guideline. I look at the NCS Training Academy as a way to understand the basics of how to do an NCS. Every NCS is going to develop their own style, period. I should clarify a little bit. When I put a station on without hearing their HF, it's somebody I already know I can hear. I already know beyond a shadow of doubt I can hear them.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean.
I understand that, but that's why we all have our own styles. You do it how you want to do it. I'm not going to get upset if you call for their call sign. I'm just trying everything I can do to speed up the net. So this is where it gets murky. The single most thing that slows down our nets is not the check-in process. It's not asking for a call sign over the air. It's the stations that don't pay attention to where they're at on the net logger. And it's the stations that call a station that they know they can't hear, and they send them a 2-2, hoping that the NCS will bump that station, and then we're facilitating a fake 2-2 both ways call. That is the single most thing that bottlenecks our nets, period. I have started a thing in my nets that is very simply like this, and I'm not trying to be rude about it. I'm trying to be very straightforward about it. I'm not going to bump any. I make this statement before I officially start the net. I am not going to bump any station just because you're calling them. If you ask me to, I'd be happy to, but I'm going to let you try to make your call. If you ask me to bump them, I will, but I will not as a matter of practice, because that incredibly slows down the net. You got, hey, you're getting a call from so-and-so. Well, have them send me numbers. You tell that station that said, hey, have them send me numbers. You tell him he wants you to send him numbers. Well, I need him to send me a long string of numbers. Neither one of them can hear each other, and we're trying to force a call, and it's sucking the time from the net on a call that should never have even started.
Or they're both on time.
So I got some issue with that, and I'm not going to change what I'm doing because it really slows down the nets in a big way. Stations should not be calling stations they cannot hear. It's simple.
And Kerry, you have 3 shots on your turn, so you could call 2 stations and then go for grabs. And that's our policy. So if you do have one of those stations in like Nevada, you need Nevada, and you call them, you can't hear them, call somebody else. I mean, you know.
And the net control has a duty to in the call or an attempt.
Yes.
Sorry. Yeah, and the net control has a responsibility to stop an attempt if they feel like it's not going to work, and that's important, and sometimes that's tough, but it keeps the net moving, and you get a chance.
But if the guy tried to check in and I clearly couldn't hear his signal, then I'm not even going to try. I'm not going to waste that time. I'm going to go on to somebody else.
If a relay picks him up, yeah, you're good. I don't think there's anything wrong.
We've been doing it. Our NCS has been doing it, and it's been working. And I haven't heard really. The only complaints I've heard is, well, this is an amateur radio. So anyway.
Another thing is the next round, bands are going to change. And, there are times where I don't hear Kirk, which is rare. And at the end of the net, he's driven over to the house and parked in my driveway. So I always look forward to second round or third round. Anything else? Okay. Dave, I'm going to do ladies first.
By all means.
K19BB.
Who?
All right. Yeah, who? I want to address the part that you talk about late check-ins, because you did mention late check-ins, and no one has said anything about late check-ins. I agree that every NCS is going to run their net differently, and that's fine. I run it my way, and I take a look at how my net is going, and I decide whether or not a late check-in is going to be added at the bottom of the list, or if they're going to wait to the next round. There is absolutely zero reason to wait to the next round to give them a call if nobody in that round has made any calls and it's a new station. Put them on the list, give them a call. Everybody in the next round's going to call them. It's not going to affect anything else on the net. I like that we've made the net control guidelines, that we have policies that we do not break, but the rest is guidelines, and we each can individually run our nets, excuse me, as we see fit. So if you're comfortable calling for their call sign on the air and that's what you want to do, I'm not telling you you have to. Don't tell me that I have to, because I'm not going to. I grab them off of AIM. I'm really good with the AIM. Let them know that they're on the list. If they're not there when I get to them, it's just like if another station walked away from the radio and they're not there when I get to them. So that's my opinion.
So Debbie brings up a really, really good point, is that guidelines are not necessarily a roadmap, but they're a wide map, and they give you help in the way you run nets. And I feel that unless this thing is really a burning thing, we should keep it a policy and make it a thing, because I've only heard 2 people complaining about it, and that's not enough. But I wanted to bring it up just so that we could get it cleared up and people can kind of understand. Because I think who's in favor of this procedure like Mac and Debbie have said, and I think everybody has. And I can't remember who told me about it. I tried it, and it helped. You know, I mean, I tried a few nets, and I said, "Hey, this is working pretty good." So,
real quick, and Dave, I still recognize you. John, you've been sitting there quietly on Zoom, patiently. Do you have anything you want to bring up to the group from the Northern Hemisphere?
Well, thank you for inviting me in, first of all, and I hope you guys are having a great time. As far as the subject of how a net is run, I mean, from up here, I recognize the fact that everybody has a different style. My personal preference is a run and gun. You know, if Mac has a good system going for him, and I tend to agree. The only point that I find that I take issue with sometimes is you'll hear a station come in at the end of a round. He'll call in, maybe you're on your second or third one before the end. The station calls in, you stop, you log them in, and you give them that call. The only consideration I have with that is there's a lot of people that have been waiting for that second round to come up. These guys have just come on. And it really burns me sometimes when that station comes on, takes a call, and then you don't hear from them for the rest of the night. I guess it's a matter of choice, but that part tends to irritate me a little bit. But otherwise than that, you guys run a great series of nets. Each one of you is individual, and you handle it individually. And there's nothing, I really don't have a lot to complain about, to be honest with you. A few little ticks here and there, but otherwise than that, everybody's different and everybody does a good job. So that's my take on it.
Okay, thank you. Anybody want to say anything to John? Okay, let me get Dave real quick. Hang on. I apologize, John. We'll get Dave here.
WN1F, David. This is not so much a question, but more of an observation and statement, perhaps rhetorical and not necessarily for up for discussion. I'm sure it's been beat to death before anyway, but we're all talking about keeping the net flowing, moving, saving time. And one snag that I see is particularly relative to the new stations checking in. They oftentimes will be checked into the net. They have no clue of who we are or what they're getting themselves into. Where I'm going is essentially is quite often that's the last you hear from them once they've checked in. There is, in my 30-something years history with the Century Club, there's a kind of a policy or protocol, NCS, that will check out a station not heard after 3 attempts. My observation, it's more as a relay station, is the station is not checked out, but that still remains on the logger as being available, but yet has been called 6, 7, 8, 10 times with no answer. You talking about some wasted time and dragging. I would ask, I guess, is for that to be revisited, that control's looking at calling the news station 2 or 3 times and not hearing and checking them out. But I think there needs to be a little bit of consideration that if this station's been called 6, 7, 8 times with no answer by stations like myself, my own standard of operating is if I can't make a contact, log a contact in about 7 seconds, I'm done. And I'm going back to the net or I'm calling somebody else. That's me. When I hear 2 above me on the list call a new guy without an answer, I will seldom ever call that station because I figure they're not there. But yet last round, after 2 or 3 rounds, 2 hours later, when that control says any last rounds, you got guys calling that same station that's already been called 10 times. So, you know, again, I'm doing the math, rambling on a little bit, but that's one of my pet peeves. I have others. You got time? So that was my statement.
The policy of the line?
Yes, yeah, that's another thing. So, yeah, the line.
Yeah, so basically, for those of you who don't know, first round check-ins always got put below the line, and they weren't given a call until the second round. That was our policy for a long time, and we abandoned it. And to dovetail what Dave says, but Jeff Jackson need to know in, when you get a station that says, please check me in, and you're 4 from the bottom, so you check him in, he makes his call, and he's gone. He makes 1 call, and he's gone. But you can't fix that. You can't fix that to people. So, but I'm not suggesting we go back to the line, but we did those kinds of things so that we can keep these things going.
Well, the root of the thing that's really annoying is the station's been called so many times and remains on the list, and that's fine. But you know, you got the stations that are calling them at the 11th hour, and why are you calling a station that hasn't answered 10 times, and why you just wasting your time and everybody else's time?
Okay, there was somebody. Okay, El Jefe.
K4JEL. My issue is with folks that are trying to check in, interrupting calls, and interrupting in between when they shouldn't be. We have a line in the NCS that we say every net. This is a directed net. It's only supposed to be for people that are called by NCS or relay. When somebody yells out, check in, that's it. And a lot of times they don't realize it, but there's somebody trying to make a call. And that's the problem. I suggest, my idea, what I've tried to do is say, we'll take check-ins, stand by. We'll do on-air check-ins after line 20, check-ins on AIM at any time. And I, like Debbie and several other folks, take them right off the bat, right off of AIM. I'd rather them check in AIM all the time and not yell out check-in and things like that. My sort of what's going on is some folks are doing it. Some NCS are taking that check-in. And so they get the idea that it's okay to interrupt my net to do that. And so I just caution you and encourage you to ask them to wait for your check-in on air when you call for them.
Thank you. And usually if NCS is not talking, there's a contact being attempted. Okay. Who's after him? Any hands? Okay.
Hey, Clay, I want to say something.
Okay. All right, KV0XP. Again, being a recent NCS trainee, I know what I was taught, and the way it's supposed to be done isn't the way it is always done, and I think this would help speed up the nets. The way I was taught is if the station doesn't respond to net control, then he has an official relay to try that station. If the net control and a relay can't reach that station, they get a no response. If they get 2 no responses, they're out. And that's the way it should be. That isn't being done. But that's the way it should be as far as I was trained.
Okay, I'm gonna go to Gary and then to,
Was that Tom?
what's that?
Was that Tom? No, Kerry.
Terry.
Kerry, okay, KV0.
Carrie, I'm sorry.
KV0.
K9 GWS, in case you didn't know. But anyhow, what I wanted to say was because, my call sign is on the homepage as sort of, if you need any questions, I get a lot of emails from especially from new check-ins. And I just wanted to say, all this stuff we're talking about, new check-ins don't care about. And what they really care about is, getting on the list, number one, however they can. Number two, get a lot of feedback, unsolicited, that they really love our nets. And the reason they love our net, the people who want to do nets. Now there's the people who go, yeah, nets aren't for me. I've got those emails too. Yeah, nets aren't for me, whatever their reason is. But people who really want to do nets love our nets for 2 reasons. Number one, we're friendly. We're nice people. We help them, right? They love that. Number 2, they run fast. They hate sitting there on some nets where the things just drag on. Some guys mumbling about weather and everything else. And, it just bores them to death. So I just wanted to inject a little bit of positivity here to let you guys know that we're doing a great job. And, we need to continue to watch after those new guys that check in. Yeah. Who's next? Clay.
Kerry. I'll get it.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
N1ABY, yeah. Because to kind of second what Dave said is you should pay attention to what's going on when the net's running. If you call, some stations have been called 3, 4, 5 times and they don't respond, they're not there. Don't bother calling them. Don't waste the net's time. And people just got to get that message. That's all I got.
One more comment on content. Yeah, a couple of people said. So you check the station out, they come back. Check it back in. Yeah. I mean, there's no, the whole idea about it.
The whole idea about it is to notify the net, the people on the net, that this station is out and not to waste time.
And it works.
There's been several times I've gone on AIM and said, I'll be back in a minute. There's 4 legs, 2 ears, and a tail that needs to go out. Is there anybody else? Okay.
Yeah, I'll add on to what Gary said. Our nets are fun. People hear us. We're having a good time. We have a purpose behind what we do. And like I tell my receptionist at my office, when you're on the phone, and in our case on the air, people hear you smile. So if you're having fun and the other guys are having fun, they pick up and they want to be part of that. And that's a big point that I get when I hear feedback about, I love your nets, or club nets. But yeah, and I think we do a great job with that. And I sure want to encourage us to keep doing that and have fun. Let them hear you have fun. Thanks, sir.
I came to the club in 2009. That's when I got my first 100-point award. And I legitimately looked at Ole Miss and immediately felt like home with this group. That's why I hung around. So blame it on that. You're stuck with me now. But anybody else, any other comments? Dwight, you've been awful quiet.
I've been sleeping.
You awake?
Yeah, we're ready to do that.
I would love to see a mentoring mechanism of some sort
often when I see a new station, he's been in the nets once, twice, 3 times, I make my contact and I'll send them a welcome email that tells them simple things about how to apply for a 100-point award and don't use that rare Cuban contact in it, even though it qualifies. And I know. See, and I learned some of this the hard way because I didn't listen to Elmer. But I sometimes get back a really nice answer that says, thanks for the information. Sometimes I get back because I offer to answer questions. And I don't know how many of you know William Wu in Ontario, but he's my new best friend. And he's been sending me texts about how's the eyeball and everything because he's working and he can't be here. And he misses the weeknight nets because he works an evening shift. So he's only there on the weekends. But you know, do encourage people like that. And you know, I mean, I can't handle all the new ones, but it seems like if we send a message to somebody that was new, even though they dropped off, it gives them an opportunity to come back and find that we are friendly indeed.
Let me make a comment.
Okay, I was probably going to say the same thing you were.
Well, okay, so the communication team is working on something like this, and what we want to be able to do is literally have 4 or 5 people, and every new check-in, we send them a letter now. If you guys don't know that, the day after they check in, we send them a letter. 2 weeks later, we invite them back if they haven't checked in more than 2 or 3 times, and those are fine. But what we want to do is have people who will reach out to them and be their mentors. I will tell you this: we're looking for volunteers to do that, but we're going to be very selective about who we pick, because if you guys notice on AIM, sometimes people put out misinformation. There are things that aren't correct. So we really want to make sure we have people who really know what the right answers are. And if they don't, the kind of people who, if they don't, they will say, I don't know, and go find the answer before they answer the question. So we are looking for some volunteers for that. And if you're interested, reach out to us, and we'll get you set up. But the way we're planning on doing this is that every day there is a list of new check-ins produced. All right, that's what we use to send the letters out. And we'll just assign those people in order to the mentors or the Elmers, okay? I'm using business terms instead of ham terms. So to the Elmers, and those Elmers then will be responsible for reaching out. We get, I don't know how many new check-ins. It shouldn't be a big burden on anybody to be able to do this. It'll take some time, but it shouldn't be a big burden. There you go.
Okay, thank you. No, you. I know.
I'm sorry, I promise this is the last time I'm going to touch this. AA1QW. So I just wanted to kind of hitting on Gary's point. There was a group of us that have done a lot of work over the past year or so. Debbie, Marty, me, Sammy, Gary, in putting together, making videos that are now live on the Century Club YouTube page that address a lot of questions that come up frequently at AIM, as far as like, hey, I don't understand how to get membership. And, you know, there's a great video that Debbie did, how to get 100 points. So I've been really trying to, I keep those all bookmarked. So whenever I see that come up in AIM, just give them the link right then and there. But, you know, through any of your communications, just be mindful of that, because we have a lot of good information up there, from quick QSL to all the, you know, probably the top 5 questions that might come up. And we're continuing to think about other things that we can do and put up there to help people. That being said, the second part that I want to bring up, and I promise I'm not trying to open a can of worms, I don't have the solution, but I just want to give some feedback to the board and the membership. Just some of the feedback I have gotten, because I'm rapidly approaching about 1,500 stations that I have invited since 2023 to the NEPs. Some are brand new, some are stations that may have checked in 5-10 years ago, trying to get them back. Some of the feedback I have gotten has already been addressed, such as, you know, the QSL requirements. One person famously said to me, I don't understand why I need to have 50 cards from N2XTT. And I let him know that we've kind of adjusted what we accept now for confirmations, from anything to an email to quick QSL, that will lessen the impact of the paper that they have to maintain. Some of the other feedback that I've been getting regularly is, believe it or not, there are a lot of stations out there that don't use NetLogger, still do pen and paper. And this came recently from a guy that used to check in 2020, 2021. He's like, Brian, I just can't find the nets anymore. I don't have internet in my shack. I can't find the net. So I just don't participate anymore. So I've been, trying to coach him through that. But, it kind of ties into something else I've been seeing coming up on AIM a lot lately, especially on 40 meters with the frequency. So we know we're operating all over the place. We're running into BCI a lot, QRM. We're never going to find a frequency that works for the entire country at the same time. I think we know that. But I'm almost wondering, just thinking back to 10, 15 years ago when I was active on the nets, specifically on 75, and I think Kirk, you and I were talking about this recently, there was a group that would operate on 3902, which was the 75 meter frequency we used for a long time. We had a handoff. So Maynard, who's unfortunately now at Silent Key, had a great relationship with that group. So it would be about 10 minutes, top of the hour. They'd be like, okay, Maynard, you on frequency? We're going to hand the net over to you to start the frequency. So again, I don't have the answer for this, but I just wanted to put it out there for people to think about. Maybe we look at other nets, potentially on 40 meters that might be on a good frequency that's not suffering from BCI and a lot of QRM. Maybe there's existing nets out there that wrap up around the time that ours is going to start. Maybe we could reach out to them, think about maybe having a handoff, something like that to keep in mind. So thank you for listening.
Okay. Okay, hang on. There was somebody behind you.
I have a question.
Hello?
There we go. This is specifically for Gary. I'm interested in mentoring new check-ins. Who do I contact?
You can contact me or Debbie. Debbie's kind of heading it up for our team.
Okay.
But either one of us will be contacting IDPB.
Okay, thank you.
Call sign?
Your call sign, Bob.
W5MKC.
Okay, WA2JIM again. This is a little more technical. The subject matter is the vice president of, not you, the vice presidency of our club. Once upon a time, the president and the vice president were elected on the same year. And I don't recall what happened, but there was one person didn't rerun, or I don't know, somebody resigned. And we didn't have the continuity. We had brand new president and vice president, and they felt that that was not good, and so they put it on staggered terms. And then we had a president who left, and the vice president had to think about whether he should become president. It wasn't an automatic thing. And my feeling is if we don't have a vice president who automatically becomes president in the absence of the president, why do we have a vice president? What is the function of a vice president? Is the only reason we have a vice president because everybody has a vice president? Every club does have a vice president, and every other club, the vice president becomes the president when the vice president and when the president leaves. And if my feeling is if the vice president doesn't want to become the president, he should automatically become the president. If he doesn't want to be president, he resigns, and now he's not on the board anymore. Because the sole purpose of having a vice president, as demonstrated by making it on alternate years, is for the continuity. So there's somebody with some experience at that level who's not just been looking after a call area, but has been a vice president of the whole club. And wondering how directors may feel about that. I'm wondering why that hasn't been addressed. I'm wondering why we have a vice president if he doesn't become president automatically. Because the day will come again when somebody's called away, or worse yet, somebody passes, and then we may be in a lurch by not having anybody there. So
A0HF, Chair of the Bylaws Committee. So we did change that. Just, Clay, the Vice President assumes the office automatically.
Is that automatic now?
Yes. Last round of the bylaws. Yep.
Sorry.
There you go. Excellent.
Instant.
See how quick we solved that? Thank you very much. Are we fast?
This scares me.
I just have one more comment I'd like to make about the NCSs, W6PNY, Mr. Doug. There's a lot of people in this room that are active NCS stations. So this is not for you. We as a club, ever since I've been in this club, and there's people who've been members of this club much longer than I have, it's always been a problem getting NCS stations. So somehow we have to come up with a way or a method or whatever we need to do as a group. How are we going to get more NCS stations that are willing to NCS and be there and take at least one a week, something? But that's been the age-old problem since the beginning. And I doubt that it's going to change, but it would be nice if we had more. And again, the people in this room, there is a boatload of active NCS stations in there. So it's not for this room, it's for the group to say, how are we going to make this happen? I don't know what the answer is, but I certainly have the question.
So I want to add on to what Matt said, because I just said to Jim here, you're going to touch on one of my hot buttons.
So, this discussion came up in our communications group, and obviously NCSs are kind of the lifeblood of what we do here, right? We have trained, and not all of them, but we've trained probably over the last year and a half or so, 6 to 8 NCSs, all right? To my knowledge, there's only 2 of them who are willing to run nets. Why did we train them? We were just desperate to say we trained an NCS station, right? And it's like, I believe we need to have, first off, I've been involved in enough volunteer organizations to know that most of the time, people you really want don't volunteer. You're excluded, Tom. But you got to reach out to people you think are going to be good. And number 2, you got to tell them where you need them. Because where we really need people is 40 late and 75 late, right? We don't have enough NCSs to even run 75 late every day anymore, right? So when you reach out to somebody, or 20 meters, I'm the 20-meter net coordinator. I have a hard time finding 20-meter NCSs because, number 1, it's a tough net to run. 20 meters is a little difficult. And number 2, it's on the weekend. I have things to do. And so it's a little tough finding them. But when we reach out to these people, we need to say, here's what we really need you to do. And rather than just train NCSs and hope they find a home. And that's really what we've been doing. So
I'll add on to that one step further. And thank you. And yes, we do have a good many NCSs. We need more. But hey, every one of us, if you see that a net is not meeting 10 minutes ahead of net time, jump in, run the net, at least open it up. And if you can't continue it, someone will come in and make it and pick it up from you. If you have the training and even if you don't have the training, if you'll just start on paper right now, who's there? When somebody gets on and figures out, hey, they need somebody with that logger up, jump in and do it. You'll get a heap of praise from me, and you get a lot of appreciation from people who otherwise would not have been able to check into the net. One great example, Dave helped me out. I was sitting in a parking lot in Sacramento, California, and there was no net. I had my laptop with me. I could open the net, but I couldn't run a net from my truck in California. And Dave ran it, and I appreciate that to this day. Gary did that for me in Bismarck, North Dakota one day. I said, Gary, there's no net control. And he jumped on. So yes, please, if you see it's not opening up, go ahead, get it started. At least tell folks someone will be here shortly and we'll have it going. Yes.
Gene, I'll make it real quick. I kind of detail off what Gary said. I think we should be pre-qualifying people that go through the NCS training. I think we should make sure that there is an interest, that they're willing to take on a net, and that we're short on, because I think we're just spinning our wheels. If we put something in the NCS training and he doesn't start running nets for 2 years, what have we really accomplished?
The second thing is, we're talking about being down NCSs. We're also down at least 3 net coordinators. And trying to get volunteers has been really, really tough the last few years. We're down 40 late, 75 late. Some of the digital net, there's probably more, and we've had to combine them. And we put the 40 meters together, with 75 meters together because we couldn't find people willing to step up. And let me tell you, the job of a coordinator today is so much easier than it was 5 years ago. Because 5 years ago, you had to fill out a calendar, you had to do all this paperwork at the end of the month, and then you had to hear the people complaining. Well, I need those 4 points. And so what happened? Matt stepped in, we've automated all that. So really the job, the real job of a net coordinator right now is keeping the nets filled with NCSs. I mean, that's the real job. And the coordinators are doing it, are doing a good job. But both Kurt and I, we have the same issues, trying to find NCSs. I'm done.
I thought you were done.
You're my friend.
It's on.
I have a suggestion for the net. To get an NCS to be an NCS, a member, is always difficult. It's been my experience. My suggestion is, as part of the training, to have an assistant net control. Okay? When the net opens up as a directed net, the first one to check in that the net control could ask for is to call his assistant net control. Not only will the assistant net control get experience to be in net control, he can also be the relay. And net control at any time during the net may want to take a break and give the assistant net control of the directed net. Now, what this can be helpful for is 2 things. For training, to build confidence, to be in net control. And also, if the net control can't make it that evening, he can call his assistant net control and take the net. Now, it might be a little bit more work in coordination, but I find that military net controls do this. They're a little bit different than what we do, of course. They're more strict, but they do have assistant net controls. They have relays. Because a lot of stations, when they check into a net, you can't hear that station. And it's not bad for a net control to say, are there any relays? And then listen and see if another station can relay that station in to be put on the net. Or he'd go to his assistant net control and ask for them. See if that net control. Because conditions have been really bad lately, in the last few months. And I think that would work out pretty good. It's more directed stuff. Also, when stations check in, it's not a bad idea to key your mic. Do you know what that means when I say key your mic? Say you and I are going to check into a net. We both talk at the same time. Well, what we do is we key our mic. We say, this is, key your mic again, and then give your call sign. Sometimes that will eliminate a lot of pileups. There still will be pileups. But at that time, if the net control hears a pileup, he may say, are there any relays? Or go to assistant net control and see if there is a relay. These are just thoughts. That's
Okay, you're hired. You're hired.
Raise your right hand and say, I do. You is. Okay. Oh, you want to talk?
Doug Linthry, VEJ. I've not been involved in nets until about 3 years ago. Before that, I only did nets since 2018 at Eyeballs. And so I listen to these NCS stations and, man, talk about the big guns. I think that they could be heard around the world. And so, I hear you asking for NCSs, but I wonder what kind of a station does it actually take to be an NCS? Back to net.
Yeah, you can have a modest station and have relays.
I got a quick. Hey, Doug, I'll tell you what, when I took my training, I had that same concern. He said, learn to use your relays.
I've heard that twice in 30 seconds.
You're getting here the third time. Bob Hall, when he first asked me to be an NCS, I said, Bob, there's no way. I only run 100 watts and I'm up against the coast, as far as you can get away from California. He said, Jeff, it's okay. No problem. Get good relays.
Yes.
He was absolutely right.
Yeah, he's, 6 kilowatts now.
N1ABY again. I've been on this net since 1980, so I can tell you how it was way back in the day. And we had the same problem then in getting net controls. But back in the day, it was like, there was no computers, there was no internet, there was no net logger or CC logger or any of this stuff. You did it on a piece of paper with a pencil. And somebody didn't show up, it was no big deal for somebody to volunteer and run the net. I did it many times. And I think for some people today, the procedures and the stuff we have now, I think it was probably intimidating to a lot of people. And it's like, would I give you that now? No, because I don't have net lock. I don't have all this stuff that you have to have now. And I think that may be an issue. I'm behind you.
Yeah, that's definitely an issue. I know. I was just saying that, like, to be an NCS is very intimidating. People aren't just going to jump into it. There's got to be some kind of little training. And I'm talking on there. Assistant net control is very important. To be an assistant net control is a good starting point on the air, so they can build confidence. So they can build confidence to be an NCS. I know when I was on nets, it took me a year and a half before I would even consider doing it, because I was scared to death. And then when I became one, I didn't sleep for 2 nights before the net.
Yeah, being net control, in my personal opinion, is not hard. It's intimidating.
And we are rigged right now today to, we call them backup NCSs, but we had no tradition
of putting them on the calendar. And I think you're the only one that's been tough, isn't it?
Yeah, Matt, Kilo 2 Yankee Sierra and I got together and said, hey, let's make a place where we can list our backup NCSs. And you'd have thought out of your fire where they ran. Because it's not a lot of fun to be a backup NCS. It's especially because of how few people run nets each week. Most of our NCSs are doing 3 or more nets a week. And they did not want another time slot to have to be there in case the other couldn't. So, step up. It'd be great to have that system in place because the infrastructure is there. But we just need some more NCSs. And if you're having fun, it's a blast. The newer ones that come in, I can tell they're strong and doing good. And the group that we have do great. Y'all are appreciated very much. But yes, the backup NCS is there. We just need the rear ends of the seat. Thank you, sir.
Okay, 2 more people. I think you had your fist up first. Stand by. We're getting kind of close to needing to go a different place on the agenda.
Thanks. James Caff, IDQ. Lots of good concepts today about the NCS chat here. Now,
little history, I've been doing the last couple of years, the Texas State Racing Nets, typically well 100 people every time, and the typical introduction they always typically do is, this is pause in the call sign. So it's a good idea there. I know it's always practical. Also having relays is very essential because typically on the propagation distance 75 may be different from the west side of Texas versus the east side or south. Thanks.
Last but not least, we go north.
Way up north. V3 CFB. It can be intimidating. I used to do a lot of nets way back, but I remember my first few nets, and it certainly can be intimidating. But you know what? There's a lot of good folks there. There's a lot of good folks to help you out. There's stuff we heard about here, relay stations, all that. Absolutely a good winter. Back then, we didn't have the level of training that we had to come in. But even now, when you get the level of training, it is intimidating. So now let me switch gears, but the two are tied together. DigiNets need a lot of NCSs. DigiNets aren't as intimidating. Okay, so you can come in, go through your NCS training, start off with some DigiNets. Obviously, first of all, you won't hear that, which you would on an SSB net. So, if you mess up a little bit on a DigiNet, no big deal. And it's a good way to get your feet wet. It certainly is. We're also not getting near the check-ins we need to, and collectively as a group, I'm the 20 SSB and PSK, RTTY and PSK coordinator, and I need to start checking with some of the other coordinators. We need to come up with some ideas, some contest, some new award, something to promote the DigiNets a little more. But now that I've done my sales pitch there, back to the NCS, it's a great way. It's a great way for anybody to start as an NCS without necessarily all that focus.
Okay, thank you. And we're gonna take about a 15-minute break, and then we're gonna come back. Dean's gonna do awards.